Tony, we're back. Can you believe it?
We are.
I mean,
it's hard to believe.
It is. It is. I mean, I'm sitting in the middle of a heat dome right now. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of looking for an excuse to hang out in the basement these days.
Well, I understand your air conditioner is conked out, so the basement's definitely cooler than the rest of the house.
It is, and it's not just because I'm here, because that just makes everything cooler. But you know, it is what it is.
Or hot.
Or hot. So how you been, sir? It's been a hot minute.
Yes. Nice heat reference. No, doing great, man. Doing great.
Awesome. Awesome. So you reached out to me the other day and you were like, you ran into some guys online and you found this game that sounded pretty cool. And little did I know it, I'd actually watched the demo of it last year at some point, and we decided it needed some attention. So
yeah, they and the publisher, Tabletopus Games, and they sent us a copy on loan for tracks.
Okay.
So we got to play it 3 times. I played it 3 times in May, and it's a super cool game. So it definitely deserves some buzz.
Excellent, excellent. Sadly, I did not get to tracks this year, not the main event. Things were a little hectic in life, but we're going to fix that in a few weeks.
Only a couple of people were disappointed.
The rest were very happy. And that's completely fair. Well, you know, we do have some guests today. And you kind of alluded to them. So let's bring them in and introduce them, shall we?
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. Let's start with you.
Thank you.
Pontus, how are you today?
Well, I'm great, actually. It's nice to be here. It's not as hot here as it is over at your place, so that's pretty nice. A cold breeze through the windows.
Excellent, excellent. So, Pontus, you're actually the designer of Stellar Ventures and a few other things we'll talk about later as well, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Excellent. Where are you located? It's still sunshiny there.
Yeah. West coast of Sweden in Gothenburg.
Now, how long is your day today? Is it like 20 hours or are you not that far north?
Well, I'm not that far north, but it's still pretty long days, and the night doesn't get that dark, so it's quite nice. This is the only time of the year that is nice, so I take it.
Excellent, excellent. And then next to you, we have Nahv. Nahv is you're of Tabletopus Games, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm one of the owners, co-founders. Me and my friend Justin. We started the company together last year after some coffee at PAX Unplugged. We decided, let's do this. And so I'm located in New York, and so just like you guys, I'm dealing with a lovely heat wave, 90 to 100 degrees of this very humid, disturbing heat.
Yes. It's funny. I was in Las Vegas for work last week, and when I landed, it was hotter here than it was there. And I left a 116-degree day on Thursday when I landed, so it was gross.
Yeah. But I'm happy to be here, happy to talk about Tabletopus and most importantly, Stellar Ventures, but glad to be a part of this.
Excellent. So why don't we do this? Why don't we just hop straight into our yellow phase, which is going to kind of get to talk about, Stellar Ventures and a little bit more about Tabletopus. So without further ado, see, well, fancy. We do fun stuff here. So Tony, I'm going to let you lead a couple of these things just because I know that, you've played the game. So I think I'd like you to kind of intro this one. So I'll sit back here and I'll let you take this one away.
Yeah, well, I think that I'm going to also pass the buck on to Pontus, actually, and then to Nahv. Would like, who can talk about the game better than those two guys, right? So maybe Pontus, like for the yellow phase, if you could give us the elevator pitch of the game, and Nahv, feel free to, jump in there. And then Nahv also, after the elevator pitch, talk a little bit about TTG and why you're interested in this game. How did you find this game? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When I began designing Stellar Gauge, that was the name at the time, I just wanted to create a game that was like in between 18xx games and Cube Rails games, because there were some things that I would love to leave out and some things I want to accentuate. So I started to tinker with it and like cherry picking the things that I enjoy the most in both genres, and then just put it in space, because the original idea was that I wanted to create wormholes to be able to jump on the map, and I found the theme with the space to be a good setting for that kind of mechanism. So that's the origin of the idea. Then it grew from there with aliens and the system because originally we had the planets just were worth stuff, but it took forever to count them due to the ships or the trains. So I invented this like matrix to be able to do it more efficiently, a bit more abstractly. So that's the origin of the game.
Nice.
Awesome. Like Cube Rails in space with 18xx qualities.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I kind of heard about it exactly pitched to me like that, Cube Rails in space with 18xx qualities, and I learned about it in a trick-taking Discord, nonetheless, from a friend of mine there who likes train games and Cube Rails, and having kind of chatted with him, I made a print and play copy myself and brought it to PAX Unplugged with me. That would have been in 2020.
23,
23. Yeah, 23. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so we kind of, put it together. I brought it and another friend of mine, Justin, and I were sitting over coffee one morning. We laid it out like on the table at the hotel room, kind of set it up, read through the rules, ambitiously trying to play a game before we both had to catch our flights out of there, and decided that, we wanted to do something with this. And so we decided to start a company. And I think what really intrigued us is we love games that have, player interaction, a lot of table talk, shared incentives. Like those are the kinds of games that we really like. And we really love Cube Rails but not just Cube Rails, kind of other games that do the same thing. And whenever we try to pitch some of these games to our friends, they never want to play them because, they are, they don't like the theme. They're scared of getting into a train game, not knowing what it is. They're kind of worried. And so we were like, we need to find a way to show other people how these games are awesome. And a game that was set in space where you can wormhole and interact with aliens seemed like a good opportunity to do that. And so I reached out to Pontus on BGG and was like, you don't know us, we don't know you. We've never published a game before. You want to do this? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of how it happened.
I love that. That's amazing.
Now, one question: did you need 60% to fund the company, or are you?
But it's definitely not full cap, though, right?
Yeah, 60%, and then somehow the other money just came from somewhere. I don't know where. It was glorious. Yeah,
just comes from the ether. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, what are your current plans for the game?
Yeah, so it's pretty much done, I would say. We have 2 maps that we're going to include in the base game. I guess grander plans is this game is going to be more of a system, and so there are going to be lots of maps that we kind of expand onto it in the future. But the base game is going to have 2 maps. The first one is done production. We have some kind of prototype copies. The rulebook graphic design is pretty much finalized. We were gonna try to launch it on Kickstarter this month, actually earlier this month, and then this small thing called tariffs happened in the world. And so we're waiting for the next couple of weeks to see where things go with a temporary pause and make an official decision. Ironically, the second map in our base game that we kind of planned well before any of this started, it is about taxes and borders. And so has nothing to do with the fact that we're dealing with some of those issues right now. So we're working on that map currently. And the plan is once we decide to kind of fund, everything's going to be in a spot that we can very quickly kind of send the email to Panda, who's doing our production, and say, here's everything, let's start printing. And so there won't be a major delay from campaign close to people getting their game, hopefully.
Interesting. I'm kind of curious. You going with Panda, you're kind of going with the biggest dog in that fight right now in China. What drove you there versus, say, going with one of the smaller groups or things like that?
Honestly, it was from some recommendations from people I trust in the gaming community and the gaming world. And one, I love all the games I get from Panda, just the component quality and everything is just top notch. And, a lot of the main reason we went with it is because of their customer service, which we've heard is pretty good to kind of help with the production. And since Justin and I had never published a game before and kind of we're both doing this as our second job, we have other, kind of full-time jobs, families, etc. We just wanted kind of some hand holding through the first, our first experience, so we don't mess anything up, and so that people get a high quality game. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so much nuance to getting a game published that having a partner like that, I think, is super helpful. It's just I thought it was a very interesting choice because it's they are such a big company that sometimes people who are just starting out or something, either they feel like they can get lost or not taken care of. But I think, like you, I've actually heard the exact opposite, where they get very well taken care of.
It's been great. We've been completely, it's been a very nice process so far, and they've caught things for us that we might have missed otherwise, and so it's been a smooth process. And to us, it was worth the extra, that it might come with a little bit of a higher, price for, but it was completely worth it because we just want, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the game reflects what we want it to reflect, that kind of Pontus is happy with the production, and that ultimately all the people playing it are happy with it and have a final product that they really love. So
yeah,
awesome.
You get what you pay for is also often true.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
Both ends. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. Well, why don't we get in and dive into the game a little deeper, and let's head into said green phase. So in the green phase, Tony, why don't you walk us through, since you actually have played this and I haven't, you said this is actually the pink phase? I'm confused.
Well, yes, well, let's see. Let me circle back to pink phase here, right? Because Wheel Tapping's a show about 18xx games, so why are we talking about cube rails? Well, we all love cube rails. But this is, as we mentioned earlier, right? This is cube rails with some 18xx qualities and things like that. And one of those qualities are ships, right? Of different levels. And so the first tranche of ships, i.e., trains, are pink in this. So it's really the pink phase.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yes. But yeah, let's talk about some of the gameplay attributes here. Like I mentioned, we were able to have a copy for Trax. It got played several times. I played in 3. The game was very well received, by the way, guys. At Trax, I was able to snap a few pictures. I was pretty dang busy during Trax, but I was able to snap a few pictures. I shared it with those guys. Yeah, in fact, Stellar Ventures was the very first game that I played at Trax this year, because Wednesday, Chris, as you know, right? Wednesday night, we go there and set everything up for Thursday morning. But after we're done setting up, we always want to play a game, and there's always early birds that are hanging around. And so my first game of Trax was a 5-player game, Stellar Ventures. So it was pretty great.
How long did that take?
I don't remember, but I mean, not long or whatever. You
Okay.
know, so
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, but like, so guys, you know, let's talk about some of the gameplay. I've made some notes over here about like some of the things that really turned me on about the gameplay. So maybe I'll use some of those to draw out some things. But please,
Yeah, do that for sure.
Free back and forth, you know, conversations here. But yeah, so I mean, the most obvious thing is that like this is a cube rails game at its core, right? And so like the track and the stations are all cubes, except well, they're not really cubes because you guys have some really neat, you know, shaped wooden. I don't know what you call them, tokens,
Outposts.
I guess. Right? Outposts. Yeah, well, they're called outposts. Yes. Yeah. Each company's got their own, you know, shape and everything. I think it's really cool, but yeah, and as you're building your track with the cube rails, you know, and you're trying to, you know, get your outposts on the different planets and things, even though this is in the vast, you know, openness of space, there's actually terrain, right?
Yeah, two-dimensional space. That's awesome.
Two-dimensional space.
Yeah, for sure. What the game is about is like you have this expanse of outposts to try to access different planets and to boost your mining capacity, as we call it. That's one of the main values in the game. The other one being cargo, or like the sum of the ship's capacity to transport the goods from the planets to the home system, so to speak. And the point being that they are like on a matrix with rows, and the lesser of those values decide the payout later in the round. So you need to boost both the capacity for mining and the cargo capacity. And the cargo capacity is the trains in 18xx games that do rust eventually. So
yeah, so like that cargo capacity, right? Your ships, there's like one ships and two ships, right? Like there's different ranks of ships, just like you would think of different ranks of trains. And that cargo capacity, you know, the ones, the twos, you know, you can add them up. You can only have 3 ships at a time.
3, yeah.
Yeah. And so the train,
it's
but the ships.
A total. Yeah, sorry.
No, go.
No, so the sum of those ships was decide the level of cargo capacity. So to get 2 1-ships and 1 2-ship, it's very similar to how you manipulate the train roster in 18xx.
And it's very similar to, you know, in 18xx, right? When you have your network or your kind of track, you know, if you don't have the trains to take full advantage of that, it's the same thing in Stellar Ventures. If you don't have the cargo or the ships to take advantage of all of the planets you've kind of put these outposts on to mine the resources from, you know, you're not going to be able to get, you know, as much dividend as you could from that. And Pontus, one thing that, you know, I think would be cool for you to talk about is how you came up with that, the system and the table, because I think one thing that Stellar Ventures really does kind of in a neat way is your dividends that are paid are based on this table that kind of Pontus alluded to, where your cargo is going up, you know, as you get more ships, and your mining capacity is going up. But it's you know, every row that you kind of pop up on this table, each time you get a new level of ship, it goes up 1 row, and it takes an increment of 3 to go up 1 row of your mining capacity. And so you're trying to keep your mining capacity and your cargo in line so that you get full advantage of your mining capacity. And so I think that was really neat. And then the other thing that's really neat about it is the way that, you know, kind of you worked dividends in, you know, and how the dividend structure works, because it's not just straight division based on number of shares. It depends on the status of the company, which, you know, you might want to talk about, which I think does 2 things in my mind. One, it keeps things streamlined for kind of new players so that it's not kind of doing this division every time by 3 or 5 or 4. It's just kind of looking at a chart, and it's very clean, and I thought it was clever. So maybe talk about that for a bit. How you came up with
originally it really was due to like streamlining and keep the time commitment down, because to count every planet and count every ship and try to find, like doing the 18xx style of play just didn't work. It was too cumbersome. So this chart made it very, like, it is very quick to find what your payout level is, and due to the grouping of making it private or minor or major company due to the how many outstanding shares there are, it also made it very easy to see without any calculation at all, actually, the payout level compared to standard cube rails where there is some calculation needed to be able to like find the proper payout. It's also as the private is when it's only one share, only one owner with one share. Minor companies 2 or 3 shares. So you get these thresholds that you really don't want to move past. If you can stop that somehow.
Let's I want to paint a picture here for people that might be watching or listening that haven't seen the game, because like this chart that we're talking about is really connected to like everything going on, right? And so I want to try to paint a picture, so as to what Nahv said, right? As you explore and you reach planets and build outposts on planets, each planet has a value that will increase your mining capacity, right? That these planets have resources or what have you. And so you're raising your mining capacity on this one chart, right? And it moves, like Nahv said, every 3 points, right? So your mining capacity moves over, then it goes up, then it moves over, then it goes up, right? So your mining capacity increases. And on this chart, your mining capacity is, you're showing what your potential dividends could be, right? Because this is how much stuff you can produce. However, your ability to deliver, right, your cargo capacity is really,
exactly,
right, is really going to determine what your dividends are, right? So as like Nahv said, you're trying to, somewhat keep those in balance, right? Or at least, have a lot of cargo capacity. And of course, as people are buying through the different ranks of your ships, the older ships become obsolete and go away, right? So your cargo capacity might decline briefly while you buy more ships, and stuff like that. So you're playing this game of, I need to explore and I need to be able to deliver the things that I have found on my planets. And that wherever your cargo is, right, you look across on this chart and that's what your dividend is. So like these guys are saying, right, there's no like, okay, my dividend is 72 divided by 3 shares. And, it's none of that stuff, right? You look at this chart that Pontus created, and it makes it very simple.
And you're also not having to count links, count stations, optimize routes. You're not really doing that part either.
It's kind of there. Everyone can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could focus on the things that make that chart work instead of the math, right? Yeah. You could play the game, right?
Right.
And like what
the table was kind of designed to do the math for you, essentially. So, and which is especially important for new players, I think.
Yeah. Pontus, you were talking about like if you're a private company, a minor company, and a major company, right? And I think that's something we need to talk about to show how that affects that table, because the dividends are different based on the quote unquote size of your company, I guess, right?
Yeah. The payout for a private company is like, let's say it's 12. If it goes to minor, if 2 or 3 shares out, it drops by half down to 6, and if it turns to a major company, it drops by half again to 3. So it's like a more structured form of devaluation, or where it's not directly per share, but it's diluted in steps and on the chart instead.
Yeah, that's
and
the thing.
the heart of that too, I think, is Pontus. Each company has 5 shares, right? And the only way companies get money is by issuing shares. So you're kind of all game. The companies that you're invested in, you have this struggle of you need to raise money by issuing shares, but you don't want to issue shares because you want to keep that paying as high dividends as you can as long as possible. And so companies are not going to get money except by issuing a share. It's the only way.
Now I know why Tony likes this game so much. So this is right in his wheelhouse.
Oh yeah. It's like the way the game starts, right? Is 1 share of each of the 5 companies gets auctioned off, right? And then the winning bid goes into the company treasury, and they use that money to buy ships and explore space, right? Things like that. And when that money's gone, you're done, unless you're going to issue another share, i.e. sell it to.
And it's gone fast, very fast.
Yes, it does go very fast.
And the problem is, this is the 18xx part, that as the ships rust, you are obligated to purchase new ships, so you need more money. So you can't just rest on your laurels. You need to get more money into the company somehow. Yeah.
Is there any buying over of anything from other companies or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
There have been variants for sure, but I need to keep it as like clean and streamlined as possible in this fusion genre.
So after that initial auction, right, every company has 1 share out. We bought them. And so every company with 1 share issued is a private company, and that's the biggest dividends that you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
But then later, you're going to feel the need to, or as we'll talk about in the boardroom battle, somebody else feels that you need to issue a share, and the company will sell another share and earn some amount of money at the auction to put back in their treasury. And now when, like Pontus said, when 2 or 3 shares are out, you're a minor company. And so your dividend is now smaller, right? Your shares have been diluted, right? There's more people out there taking a share of your dividend, right? And then later in the game, if you have to issue your 4th or 5th share, then you're a major company and your dividend is diluted even further. So I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, a big part of the finance. Yeah, a big part of the financial game is those thresholds, and to try to control when you go to the next step, and to get as much money from it as possible, so you don't need to go further, or at least keep it in minor as long as possible, keep it private as long as possible, to get as big as payout as possible during that phase.
Yeah. Because like you said, there's no math, right? Like if your dividend is 12, everybody with a share gets 12. So
yeah.
Right.
But like,
now, what's this boardroom battle, Tony?
Yeah, I was going to say boardroom battle, because I think that is really cool.
Yeah, I can tell a little about the structure of the game, because you have this what we call corporate round, where each company build outposts, expand their holdings in the space, get payout, and buy ships. When every company has done so, it's time for the investor round. So it's similar to the OR and SR in 18xx. But the initial thing in investor round is the boardroom battle. It's where you can vote for one company to issue a share, and you have these voting discs that are very limited, and one share will be auctioned out, but you better try to make it not yours if you don't want to, that is. So it's it's a boardroom battle.
And just to clarify a little bit, Pontus, it is like an SR and kind of an 18xx game, but there's no buying or selling of shares.
No.
So you're in Stellar Ventures, you can't sell a share that you have. You can't buy more. The boardroom battle in the investor round is a guaranteed share that's going to be issued, and all the players have influence over which company is forced to issue.
True. Okay. It's a round where the investors act, not the corporations. But they do other stuff than buying and selling shares. Yeah.
So I think, that's an interesting phase of the game because, like, hey, Chris, your blue company, you have the only share of it. It's making buku bucks. I'd like a share. I think, hey, everybody, let's vote for Chris to issue a share,
Right. It keeps people from sitting on stuff and being stale. It's going to help move things along.
I get the sense you and Chris have a similar dynamic that Justin and I have whenever we play. Because
I never buy 2 shares of a Tony company ever.
The boardroom battle is always like, vote for Justin's, and Justin is vote for Nahv's company.
Yep. This is very, very similar.
In this boardroom battle, I think there's another interesting aspect to the game that has an effect here, right? Because Pontus, in that corporate phase, right, when the companies are doing their thing and paying dividends and stuff, as a player, the money I earn is frozen, right? Like on my player board, there's 2 boxes. There's liquid money and frozen money. And liquid money is the money I didn't spend last time, right? And that's the money I can spend now. But all the money that I earned during the corporate phase is frozen. So when it gets to this boardroom battle, right? Like you don't have all the money available to you.
Well,
or is it when does it freeze?
They have you don't have the frozen money during the corporation round, so you can't get a good payout and then immediately invest those money in the next if a company issue a share. So that's why we have it, because in the original game we didn't have liquid and frozen money, and it was cool, but it also would very easily snowball if you get a big payout early in the corporation round. So this is a stabilizer and a fun thing to play around with. But the first thing that happens in the investor round is you move the frozen money over to the liquid, so you have access of all of them exactly when the boardroom battle starts.
Gotcha. So what
everybody will have their money from the previous round. Yeah.
So one thing that is not immediately apparent is that this boardroom battle will eventually end in issuing of a share. That moment, all the players are usually flush with cash. So when the auction starts, that share will usually get more money paid into a company than later in the, like if I issue a share as the 5th company of the corporation, no one maybe has any money. I really need it. So, but that timing is not always apparent, that it could be beneficial for you to push your own share in boardroom battle. It just depends on the game state.
Interesting.
Indeed. So, and like a company can voluntarily issue a share during the corporate phase, right?
Yes, that's the first thing they can.
That's the thing I'm thinking. You can't use frozen money in that auction.
Exactly. And that is the point, because then you can't just reinvest because all the money you earn during the corporate phase, those you are not though they are not available for you if a company issue their share voluntarily. Yeah.
And by doing it in that phase when not everybody's money is available, you might not get as big of a auction win, right?
Exactly. But sometimes you maybe just want a few bucks and get it because you have other plans. Or
love it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you mentioned
the frozen liquid transition happened, Tony. Just some background on that. That kind of developed because of this hybrid of Cube rails and 18xx. Since there's not a true stock round where everybody's doing their buying and selling, separate from the corporate round. Kind of the buying happens during the corporate round as companies are issuing their shares. It's a way to kind of, like Pontus said, prevent the first company that acts to get this big payout, and then the second company needs to issue a share, and that player that owns the first company can now buy the second company, and they just kind of run away with the game instantly.
Yes.
So if you compare to 18xx during the OR, nobody can buy anything usually. You just get money from the payouts in sequence when you go through all the companies, and then everybody has their money, and we go into the SR. Here, we introduce this frozen liquid system to simulate that somehow. Yeah.
How's the turn order determined then?
Do you mean turn order between
the company turn orders? Yeah.
In the beginning of the game, it's random, and they are auctioned out in a reverse starting order. But at the end of a round, during the administration phase, they get rearranged according to mining capacity. So, like how big they are, and that has a huge. I didn't mention it, but during the investor round after the boardroom battle, you can do some shenanigans to adjust things, to use alien tech and to put your own money and to help build a network and stuff like that to manipulate that turn order, because maybe you want to buy the first 3 ship, rust everybody else's ship, and in order to do that, you want to act first. So, yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of 18xx games take the opposite approach, right? Like the smaller companies go first and then majors go and things like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
To kind of work almost the reverse way. I like that.
Yeah, but this is because you can you can use your own money and your own sneaky stuff to manipulate it during the investor round instead of just letting the money decide. Yeah.
So I think now you cracked open the egg of the aliens, pun intended. So what is how do they figure into the game? Like the alien tech and everything.
Yeah. Originally, it was these alien planets on the board, and you could build on them, and the person who built on them get an alien tech cube that was useful for different kinds of stuff. They could boost planet value, they could boost your warp drive, or they could be used in a few different ways. I don't need to list them all. But the other stuff was the main hook of the game, other than there is 18xx and Cube Raiders in space. It's the agreement that I call the agreement, where you can, in the middle of the game, sign the agreement with an alien whenever you build on an alien planet. And that is like a pause of a game. You get a windfall of money instantly, and then it will give you a big payout, or a bigger payout at the end of a game. Okay. And the more planet you visited before you do that, the bigger the payout. But a small payout in the beginning of the game can be as beneficial or more beneficial than a late one. So that was the gist of it originally. But then when we developed it, Nahv and Justin and I think, who was it that tested it with? It was Cole Whirler, I think, that suggested.
You got Cole involved. Okay.
We developed this alien thing a bit more, and he played it and enjoyed it, and thought that maybe we could lean in even further, lean more to this alien thing and make it more apparent and maybe with some agency. So that's why that was one reason why we continued and created this. They have also a value on the mining capacity, and if you have signed the agreement, you can't be. You need to reach that marker, or you need to be as efficient as the aliens. Otherwise, they will eat you up in the end. Yeah.
So our reptilian overlords.
Yeah, a quick step back there. So when, basically, like Pontus said, I played a game with Cole and Drew and Justin, and after that play, we were kind of just talking about it, and really the concept of kind of this game, kind of the game arc, and kind of entering this like Act 3 kind of towards the end of the game, and wanting the game to kind of come to a close, kind of when you feel like the game should be coming to a close, instead of what a lot of 18xx games do, in my opinion, where you kind of get to a point where you know who's going to win and people just call the game, or whatever it might be. Like, we wanted this game to kind of finish at a point where it felt like it should be finishing, and the winner was becoming apparent. And one thing that really came into play were the aliens, and the ability to sign with them for this kind of windfall, this kind of these benefits. But Justin and I were thinking about it, and we're like, there should be a downside. Like, you're signing an agreement with this unknown race that we have never interacted with. Like, where's the risk? Where's the kind of uncertainty? And kind of pulling in a little bit of uncertainty to it. And that's kind of how the aliens started to kind of evolve a little bit in the game. And so, just for some context, what we ended up doing is, like Pontus said, there is a track based on how many alien planets a company has visited. And, when a company decides to sign the agreement with them, they will kind of get a payout based on where they are on that track, and also an end game bonus of where they are on that track. However, each alien planet kind of has a tile on the board. So it's kind of like a bit of a hidden exploration component to it. And when you visit a planet tile with a company, you flip it over, and it tells you how much the aliens go up on the mining capacity track. Basically,
you flip it if you sign it.
If you sign it, yep. So you flip the tile when you sign it, and you're basically signing with them, but then you see what benefits the aliens get from interacting with the humans, kind of, and making that deal. And so as more and more people sign the agreement, and also as ship technology progresses through the game, the aliens' ability to go up that track also increases. And all of this is face down information hidden at the start of the game. So you don't know if you're playing a game where the aliens are going to be relatively weak or relatively strong, or somewhere in the middle. But it kind of develops as the game develops, and depending on how the players choose to play the game. And so the alien mining capacity goes up on the chart, just like individual corporations' mining capacity goes up on the chart. And at the end of the game, any company that signed with the aliens, they have to have been above where the aliens are. Otherwise, all their shares are essentially worthless and not worth anything, as opposed to what they would have been worth with the bonus. And so it's kind of a risk reward. And like Pontus shows there, the backside of every share is an alien share. And so if you get consumed in the hostile takeover, they all get flipped over, and they're worth nothing.
Wow.
Or one.
One credit, but we can say nothing.
We can say nothing for sure. Having witnessed that personally, yes, that's nothing. I've been taken over.
It's definitely one of my favorite parts of the game is that that tension of really wanting to sign, when to sign, being able to leverage that against your opponents. Sometimes you might sign at a planet just to prevent another player from being able to sign, because there needs to be a tile at the planet to flip in order to sign. So there's a bit of a race element to getting to these alien planets and signing.
There is a parallel or similar vibe to Trans-Siberian Railroad, and how the nationalization in Russia works in that game with this like that stress level later in the game. So yeah,
it also kind of gives me vibes of Foreign Investors in 1880, where it's it's a timing game, because when you cash in your investors is going to make a big difference on the effect your game has and the money you receive and when.
Yes,
interesting.
Sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
And of
Excellent.
course, the aliens will grant a corporate power, correct?
Oh,
Yep. So all the
we
companies
haven't
come with
mentioned
a
those.
corporate power at the start of the game, which so part of the initial auction is there's an array of corporate powers that are available, and so as companies are started, the president gets to select one of the powers. So the auction is in part, things that influence that initial auction are the starting position of the different corporations. The relative turn order at the start of the game can be very impactful. Some of the corporations start very close to one another on the map. Others are more spread out. And so depending on where those close corporations are in turn order, which is randomized, it might increase or decrease the perceived starting value of a company, as well as the powers that are available at the start of the game, because they're drafted in order that companies are started. And so every company starts with a corporate power. And then when they sign the agreement, they get the ability to gain a new corporate power. And we don't need to talk about the powers, but they're all little game breaky things. Like, one of them, for instance, lets you, kind of take your corporation out of contention for the boardroom battle for one round. So if you see that people might be like gunning after your corporation to change it from a minor to a private to a minor, you might use your ability and say, nope, the blue company can't auction that one this round. It's not gonna be available. So they all do little fun things, and so we've spent a lot of time kind of working on this.
That power is called fine print. So,
and so the between the powers and the alien technology cubes too, which are the other portion of the investor round, which we really haven't talked much about, but the players have agency with special actions that they get during the investor round. So the big components of the investor round are really that boardroom battle, and then the player actions where they take actions on the map and then use their alien technology to leverage and boost their companies.
Yeah. The wormholes, the breed, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Giving your companies the ability to wormhole around, increasing your cargo permanently, developing planets, kind of doubling their value, things like that. And you also, there's whenever we talk about this game, we're like, there's so much to talk about in this game. I don't know how the voting cubes that you use in the boardroom battle, those are also a bit of a currency that you can spend during the investor round. You can trade them in the black market for alien tech cubes as one of the actions. So if you're in need of gaining alien technology, you can trade in some of your voting discs in order to gain technology. And so every round you're taking one action kind of where you're kind of doing stuff on the map essentially, and then one action where you're kind of using your alien technology. And so players get to kind of play around with that and leverage their turn order advantage as well.
Cool. Or right on us, it maybe.
Yeah.
Excellent. Tony, what do you feel? Do you want to head over to the purple phase?
Let's do it.
Shall we?
Yeah. Let's get purple.
Let's go. All right. So in the purple phase, we like to talk about the feels. Now, I just have feels from listening to y'all and highly interested. Certainly going to back this. I feel like it hits a lot of fun boxes for me. But Tony, you've played it several times now, and with a rather competitive group. What are your feels?
Well, it should be pretty obvious that I'm a big fan of the game. I get that classic Cube Rails feeling. I get, the 18XX vibes. Everything is so, there's lots of interlocking pieces, to think about. I just think this is a very well conceived game and a very well developed game. And I heartily recommend it to anybody and everybody. When the Kickstarter launches, Trax is going to buy, many copies. We need them for ourselves. We need them for door prizes, all that kind of stuff. So
excellent.
Yeah, we're fans
awesome.
here.
Excellent. Pontus, did you, is there anything about the game that, like, I know when you design something, there comes a point where you're done and you just don't want to play it. Is there part of this game that might keep bringing you back, or an area where you keep wanting to tinker?
Well, as we'll keep developing new maps. I will for sure keep tinkering with it. It's a natural progression of our design commitment. But the reason I play it, or the facet of the game that I enjoy the most, is the race, because I like the race on the map, actually, because there's so many choke points, and which company will reach that planet first, and who will sign, and we haven't even talked about the sixth corporation that will enter in the third round, and that has that can do a special thing where it can remove signing possibilities for other corporations. And we have like a goal, or a mega Earth that we call mega Earth. So that is like a huge goal in the distance for almost every corporation. And that race and being able to manipulate the game state during the rounds, that's what I find most intriguing in the game.
Excellent. And then, Nahv, you went and made a company based on this one game. I mean, essentially. What was the moment where you said? Because I mean, there's 100 stories of people having one game, making a company, and then it going away. But I do not get that sense at all from you. I kind of feel like there's a lot more to it. Like, what made you say we need to do this? And this is why.
Yeah, I can't tell if you're calling me foolish there or not, Chris, but...
No, foolish would be if you named your company after your first game. That's foolish.
I think, it's a combination of... I think Justin and I both have been in the industry, or not really in the industry, but we've been playing games for so long, and we both had this kind of vision of being able to publish games we like and make them available for people. And so I think when I played this game, I saw a system in it. I think a lot of that is because of how Pontus had organized this kind of merge of the two genres. And the more we kind of have chatted about the game, our development chat between Justin, Pontus, and I, we have all sorts of ideas for upcoming maps, using a lot of other features. And so this is definitely a system that we're kind of committed to. We also we're in the very, very early stages of play testing another design of Pontus's called Rocky Ventures. Well, that's what we're calling it right now. But we're planning a Ventures series where they're going to be, or trilogy, where they're going to be 3 kind of highly economic kind of strategy games. Set in kind of different universes. So the Rocky Ventures is going to be involving dwarves and mining, and each of them are going to have a different twist on the Cube Rails 18xx fusion. And the Rocky Ventures one, just kind of a little bit of a teaser, has a bit of a card market, Concordia style kind of card market at play, and it's really, really interesting how the deliveries and everything work in that game. But we're definitely committed to tabletoppers and expanding on what we started here.
Cool. I can mention that the origins of what we now call Rocky Ventures is the second gold fever in Colorado. So I made a game about that, and how they needed more, like the railroad, to be able to to get the gold or the gold mine gold ore out of the Rocky Mountains, and that is what then developed into this Rocky Ventures game with lots more mechanisms, of course, but that's the origin.
Love it.
Yeah, we love the historical theme stuff, but we also kind of try to part of what we're doing is we're trying to make these games available to a wider audience, and also when talking to Pontus, some of the especially working with the Rocky Ventures or the Gold Rush game, some of the solutions to some of the design problems were limited by historical context. And so when we kind of flipped it and kind of opened up the theme a little bit and took away some of those rails, we were able to kind of make the game a little bit more interesting, I think. So
yeah, for sure.
We love Colorado, don't get us wrong.
That's where I am. Cool, man. I will definitely be looking forward to Rocky Ventures then.
Excellent. Awesome. So why don't we kind of wrap this up in the gray phase, because we've already mentioned a few other games of Pontus's. We can kind of Tony, I know you have some curiosities here, so why don't we quickly ask him about that, and then we'll call this a wrap. So let's move on to the gray phase. Excellent. So
sweet.
I mean, the one that kind of catches my curiosity is Railheads. Like, what is this? Is it a bunch of metal guys running around jamming on a train? Is it?
Yeah,
I think it's Rocky Ventures now. Yeah, it's Rocky Ventures.
Railheads is it's a more pure cube rails kind of game or a system, because I made 4 like sister games in the system now, where it's quite similar to like Chicago Express or SAR or something like that, but with an action selection system that makes it a bit more intriguing and dynamic between the players, as well as there are both railroad shares and industry shares, and they work like it's a more two-dimensional incentive structure in the game, which make it a bit less opaque and a bit more interesting, I find, at least. So that is what Railheads is about. So I've made Railheads the Midwest, Railheads Denmark, and Railheads Switzerland. That is now being played in different groups in Sweden, and keeping developing it right now. So it's a more traditional cube rails game, but with a mechanism that I find fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Tony, any others you're curious about?
Well, yeah, like Pontus has, 3 that I know of, 18XX designs out there in the world. Uruguay, Norway, and Turkey.
Yeah, exactly. 18 Uruguay, that is right now at all the board games in their voting system. So it's doing well there, but I think the slower pace makes it a bit hard to know when exactly it will be, or if it will be published. But it looks good, albeit a bit slow. So, and that game is like I took the like a bank system of 1848 and made it more like its own entity, and combined it with a shipping system where you ship goods from Uruguay to Europe, and then pick up and deliver system in Uruguay to mimic the huge farmland and how they transport their goods to the railroad hubs and out to the harbor. So that's what 18 Uruguay is about.
By the way, Pontus, with Uruguay, we have a copy, you
Yeah,
sent to John to
exactly.
build.
Yeah.
I've only got to play it once, and my memory is hazy, but I did enjoy it. But it was played at tracks. That copy came to tracks, and a group sat down and learned it and played it.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it was a track that Scott played it the first time as well,
Cool.
where he played John's copy. So that was really cool. So that's the oldest of my 18xx designs. Then 18 Norway is a collaboration together with my friend Arne Kjell, who is a Norwegian living in my city here, and he had an idea of a game and like a developed map, and then we did it like in tandem. I took over and like put an engine. It's a 1846 engine underneath with minors and major companies and the Norwegian problems with snow and mountains, and there you can. It seems like I always have ships in my games because there's you have ships as well, parallel to the trains. They are not interlocked in any way, so you can use ships to get revenue, but it's like you still need trains in order to, like you used to in 18xx, but it's a different thing in the game that you can focus on, as well as the fun like dynamic nationalization system. So we like did it together, and then he made a very pretty game out of it. He has made a really cool version, and that game is we're trying to, or we're planning to release it ourselves in a very tiny maybe 100 copies or so later on this year maybe. So that's fun. And it's just being it reached alpha on 18xx.games, so it's playable there if anybody wants to try it out. I think most of the bugs have been ironed out right now, so that's fun. I really enjoy it.
I have not played that one yet.
I think you would enjoy it due to your as it is a 1846 engine game. I think you could have some fun with it for sure.
Awesome.
And then it's 18 Turkey, the latest of the games 18xx games I've done, and that you have played, right?
Yeah, twice, and I even taught it to some people at tracks in May.
Okay, yeah, great. What did you enjoy the game?
It's my favorite of your games so far. I mean, I haven't played Norway yet. Yeah, I do like it. Like the things that grab me about the game are the town growing into the city mechanic.
Yeah.
And you can't do that adjacent. I mean,
it's it's hard to explain, but it's quite dynamic expansion of the tracks. So yeah.
And I like that the international companies, they have like varying starting value ranges and stuff like that. I enjoy that because that affects, which companies you're going to go after and stuff. And of course the nationalization. I mean, these are all things that I love in games, right? It's mergers and nationalizing and, all the different variables that you have to consider. Yeah.
Cool.
Turkey has events in it too, doesn't it? Are there like events that pop up in Turkey, Pontus? Is that
World War One?
Or am I thinking of a different one?
Yeah, it's a main event called World War One. Yeah, where where
never heard of it.
Everything turns not so great for the corporations or the companies, and you actually roll dice to see how well they will manage the war situation for a couple of rounds, and that is also like the phases mimic the history, but it's still it's not like game breaking or stuff like that, but it do you have to think if you start a German corporation or if you start a British corporation, it has game effects for sure, and it affects the timing and so forth. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I love that. That's great. I mean, I think one thing I really love about your games and kind of what drove me to kind of you as a designer is the economic games I really adore, but like some things that economic games don't do well are kind of incorporating that degree of uncertainty in a way that doesn't. You don't want to have obviously like some uncertainty that like makes your whole game a wash. You sat there for 3 hours, then all of a sudden you're like, why did I play this game? But your designs, they incorporate this uncertainty that keeps everyone engaged, everyone excited, and I really love it. So I really want to try Turkey for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
Sounds good. Excellent. So Nahv, you said that you're planning on launching this Kickstarter. You're kind of pausing that and seeing what happens. I mean, as is most of us. So how would people want to check and find out when you're going to launch this? Do you have a wait list? Do you have a pre-page up? Where are we at right now?
Yeah. Honestly, we're hoping that we're launching within the next few months, next couple of months. So hopefully by the end of this quarter or latest fourth quarter of 2025. We have a website, tabletopasgames.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter. There's also a link there for our Kickstarter preview page. So if you kind of Google us and try to find the game on Kickstarter, there should be a preview page up there, and you can kind of follow along. And then as soon as we go live, obviously everyone that's followed will be notified. We have a Discord server that Justin and I welcome everybody to join, and we do playtesting there, talk about our games, upcoming games, also talk about other games we've been playing over the course of the weeks, just to kind of have open discussion of things. So if people want to find us in Discord, we're always happy to talk there as well.
Excellent. And Pontus, what's the next thing you're working on?
Well, I think Nahv and Justin and I will start working more focused on Rocky Ventures for sure. And then I have, and then it's like keep developing Railheads and see what it comes from that. And yeah, Nahv and Justin and I have some other projects as well in the pipeline. So I'm keeping myself quite busy, so that's fun.
Sounds like it. Excellent. Anything for you, Tony? Anything you'd like to add here?
No, sir. This has been a lot of fun. It's good to see Pontus and Nahv again as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for having us. This was a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a blast. It's been fun getting to learn more about the game and where it's headed, and I'm definitely excited for it. I like games that have variability. If you have me at powers, I like an easy chart. That always makes my life great. So I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds like it'll be a nice compliment and hopefully a nice on-ramp for people. Now you guys, Tabletop Tapas. I see what you did there. The next, you will be at PAX Unplugged this year, and you'll have a booth. So if people want to come check it out, they can there. Are you going to be anywhere else this year?
Yeah, we're coming. We're not an official business capacity, but Justin and I are both going to be at Gen Con, and we'll have a copy of the game with us to play with people. Justin's also heading to DomeCon, in I think it's in August this year, so he'll be there with the game as well. So we'll be around. So if people want to find us at either of those, again, Discord, BGG, however you want to message us, we'll set something up.
We may, I may take you up on that Gen Con offer. I usually get bored when I'm there in the evening, so I might.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Drag Michael and we'll come on over.
Let's do it.
Chris, do it. Trust me.
Do it.
Absolutely. Great. Well, without further ado, we're going to call it a day. Thank you all. Thank you both for dealing with our small technical issues this morning. That was just made this recording a little longer than it should have been. But I appreciate all your patience, and we will talk to you guys the next time we have something awesome to talk about. So that's
awesome. It's been a blast. Thank you, guys.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Bye.
You too.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. This Week in Each Week is brought to you by Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience at GameToppersLLC.com. We'll see you next time.